Welcome to this episode of In the House. So today we have a really fun topic. So what we're going to be talking about is how to build a high-performance team. So here today we have Sara Swenson with Dalgleish Construction.
Yay.
So welcome on.
Thank you.
This is your first podcast, huh?
One of our
It
own.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, full disclosure, we all work together. We work for Dalgleish Construction. But we really wanted Sara to come on to really talk about this subject of team building and performance. So, some of the things that we will talk about are, how to find a good candidate and how to know if you're making, the right choice in hiring a candidate, and what are some strategies for finding candidates and employees, and, kind of how the labor market has changed over the years. So, before we get into that, I think, we have a article that we wanted to go over, just some current events that Michael wanted to talk about. So let's get into that. Fun stuff.
Our current event section for today, construction is notoriously a slow growth industry, and that's very intentional and good thing. But we came across this headline that Carrier, one of the largest HVAC manufacturers in the country, is partnering with Google Cloud, and they are working on an AI home-powered, basically energy management system for neighborhoods that will help with power distribution across grids when there's catastrophes and any sort of potential need for when the grid is overpowered, that they can help regulate the system. And Lonnie, I'm curious about your thoughts.
I'm not going to lie, this sounds like a total nightmare.
I had a feeling you're going to be. So
very it's basically, I'm very anti whatever this is with integrated AI. This just sounds like a horrible train wreck, waiting to happen. So basically what it is it's a AC condenser, right? That has its own battery, right? And it's like this giant battery on the bottom of this condenser. And the idea is that, because I think, AC and heating is, I think, maybe a quarter of the peak demand, during summer and winter. Most of that, like a quarter of the gigawatts, right? The energy is being used to heat and cool our homes. So the idea is that, they'll integrate these systems with their own batteries to store power. And during those peak demands, it's going to basically use that battery power to kind of curb that peak, right? So they're not drawing so much from the grid, so to speak. But what they're also saying, it's going to be integrated with AI, like Google Cloud and these AI systems, basically to learn, the energy usage throughout the year, and how to monitor and regulate, the demand and when to use battery power and when to not. And it's just another way for them to monitor your power usage and shut off your power. They're gathering data on you, 100%. You know what I'm saying? So,
they are. They do it with my water now. I have a problem with that. They have my smart meter.
Yeah, your smart meter. And the other thing, like City of Austin has, if you have a smart Wi-Fi thermostat, they can monitor your thermostat and adjust the settings remotely. Did you know that?
I didn't, and I don't like that.
It has to be enabled. So if you're a smart consumer, you can go in and disable this setting, supposedly disable it.
I will say I have it enabled.
You do?
I do. I have it enabled.
Why?
I think I am. Well, there's.
I'm shaking my head.
There's some rebates associated with that are helpful, but I also like the. I don't want to have to be monitoring my thermostat at all times. And so I like the ability for it to be sensing, okay, if I have general less usage in this certain time, then it'll adjust that for me.
Nope, you're wrong.
I personally like that.
That's part of being a man, is monitoring the thermostat, okay?
I need one to auto shut off my teenage boys' showers because our water bill. I mean, you're told that boys don't shower. My boys shower like twice a day for like 30 minutes each. My water bill is unreal, but they smell clean.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's the plus side of that.
I've heard that critique before. I think even Risinger said that. He said he put out a video saying, "I wish there was an auto shut off." So that's a common issue.
Yeah.
So clearly they're missing the mark here. They need to put their investment towards auto shut off
on the
water
plumbing
valves
side
instead of the HVAC. But yeah, anyway, this is, first of all, the batteries. I don't know how long they're supposed to last. We all know that these batteries don't do well in the cold. So good luck in the winter. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
But they're supposedly rolling this out this year and installing them in some homes across the United States, and as just a trial run to see how they go. But I think they're supposed to start rolling this out, next year, even in 27.
Mm-hmm.
They want to start putting these out. So this is just a trial run. So if you start seeing these things, don't be surprised. But I don't know, I'd stay away from it. I'm very skeptical when it comes to the monitoring and the remote monitoring, because man, they're going to shut off your power.
At some point we should do an episode and a deep dive into the Freon switch.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That happened was it the end of this year or the beginning of this year, where they switched over the types of Freons across the country that all HVAC systems were on, and it was similarly controversial because it was government regulation imposed switch.
And so that's a good one.
So the reason, we can do another. We can get that conspiracy theory.
Oh, I love it.
Train.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Building conspiracy.
Construction conspiracy theories. Yeah. So I don't know. This sounds like garbage. Don't do it. Sarah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here with y'all.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, I want to get into these topics on like high performance team building and all this, but first, briefly tell us your background and how you got here.
All right. Well, I was a Colorado girl who transitioned to Texas, and I love it here. I was actually born in Houston, but grew up in Colorado. So I got the outdoor Texas girl thing going on. But I've always loved construction. My parents were hobbyist builders growing up, and my mom had her builder's license here in Texas, and they would just build houses for us. And then we'd move every 2 years once the capital gains were gone. So we just moved houses all growing up, and we would go and stop at all of the job sites around every neighborhood we had. And I just remember that fresh smell of lumber and the creativity. And, to this day, Home Depot is still my favorite store on earth. So it was just kind of in me from growing up. But for school, I went and got a chemical engineering degree from University of Colorado.
Smarty pants.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Wait, so what was the thought with the chemical engineering? What were you wanting to pursue?
So it was biochemical engineering. So I was doing making pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And I shared with Michael the other day that I did an internship one summer in a lab in a clean room, and realized I did not want to be in a clean room in a hairnet my entire life. Making drugs. Yeah. So I graduated with that degree and ended up, it was actually just after September 11th, actually. And the economy was pretty scary at that time. I graduated in December of 2001, and there was a lot of hesitancy in the market, of course. Obviously, the world was in turmoil. So I ended up at Frito-Lay, actually, in Denver. And so I was in their warehousing division, fell into supply chain, capital project management, very construction oriented. I was managing the maintenance crew in their warehousing division at 21. Cool. So it was just something that I was drawn to. And so after that, I went into consulting and flew around the country and did kind of that type of work. I will say that phase of my career was very forming for me, because what it taught me is ability to look across industries and to analyze a variety of companies. So I had the chance to work for Microsoft, Blockbuster back when it was in there, and telecom and different things throughout those years. And it was really helpful. I think I use a lot of those skills to this day when I approach problem solving, is just kind of, how do I take this, distill it down into its parts, and figure out what the root of this problem is, and then use people and processes to fix it. So
awesome.
that's really kind of what I've learned through those years. I stopped to have my boys for 6 years. I was at home raising my 3 boys.
Heck
So that was
nice.
wonderful.
Awesome.
Yes. And my youngest was 2, and I happened to run across a woman I didn't know very well in the area. And it had just popped into my head, maybe I'll go back to work. And it was on the horizon. I was going to wait till my youngest was in kindergarten. And I randomly the night before thought, maybe I want to go into home building. Because that's something I just loved, right? And I was like, I have the opportunity right now to reset and to use my skills in a different way, doing something I'm passionate about. Yeah. So I happened to randomly say this to this person that I did not know very well. And she said, I know the best builder in town. And I said, okay. And it turned out she was building a house with Dalgleish Construction, knew David very well.
That's so
Connected me to Matt McIntyre, who was actually the estimator at the time. And I thought, I'm not ready, but in life, we don't get second chances.
That's
so
true.
I walked in here that next week and thought, what in the world? I remember looking at that sign over there going, I don't know what I'm going to tell this man. And I can remember, and David still talks about it, as he said, you've got a chemical engineering degree. What are you going to do in a building company? And I said, I don't know exactly. I said, but I can solve any problem you have. And
good.
he's like, you're
Awesome.
hired. Can you start
Heck yeah.
Tuesday? And so I remember it was the week of my 34th birthday. And I thought, I had never even left my kids with a babysitter, much less a nanny. So I was like, you know what? I'm doing this. So I did. Now it's 11 years later, and it's been just the best journey. So
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. I
Super
didn't know
fun.
the whole backstory. That's really interesting.
it's
That's
fun.
cool.
It's been a big evolution, but I cannot imagine a better job. I have loved these years. Have there been frustrations? Absolutely. But it's been a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, so you wear a lot of hats here. You do a lot of different things, and you're involved in a lot of different things. But one of the things that I really want to hone in on today is the idea of building a high performance team, because I think really that's every company's goal. I mean, who doesn't want a high performance team, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You try to hire the best employees, and you try to make sure that they're well supported, and that they have what they need, and so I want to dive into that. I want to get into kind of what's the strategy, how do you approach it, when you look at what the company needs and who's out there, like I don't know, kind of talk me through it, like what the strategy is.
I think, to start, I would say when you say best employees, I think of it in a different way. I think it's humans, right? It's humans doing things collectively together to a common goal.
Sure.
And I think that that's the important thing to when you're hiring. It's not a job. It's not these series of tasks that will get done. Yes, that happens, but it's how we all work together collectively. And I think so when I think team, yes, it's a project team, but how does this whole organization work together well?
Yeah.
What type of culture drives people to want to do their best work? And it's, a sense of purpose. I think that's huge in this day and age. How do you create a mission for your company that everybody can get behind and appreciates authentically and kind of aligns to? How do we wrap our arms around each other and collectively do the best work together? I think that when you look at it holistically, when you say, okay, how can I create the best team? You have to kind of go back to what are your values as a company? What are you trying to achieve and accomplish? And to me, I really look at it and from every perspective is, what is the Dalgleish experience? What is it for our employees? What is it for our clients? What is it for our subcontractors and the architects and designers? What experience are we scripting for each other? And the byproduct and the outcome is an amazing house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think looking at it that way changes it. That's something as a company that we've never looked at as bottom lines. We're not bottom line driven at all. Because when we create beautiful things together, like obviously there's an inherent cost to that, but if there's an appreciation for the process and the product, you're not going to run into issues,
The
right?
bottom line will come.
It'll come. Yeah, I don't think. And I think that's something that David has done very well. And why he and I align a lot is we both have that same mentality of not being that way at all. And I think it's unusual to have businesses that run that way these days. So, so when I think of team, I know kind of going to hiring and that type of thing is, is it a set of skills? Absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing is intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Do you want to learn?
Yeah.
Do you want to grow?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the best version of yourself?
Dang, that's so good.
All those things. It's not, you can talk about all this stuff very superficially, but it's really not, right?
Yeah. That's that's like a good sports analogy. It's like most coaches will tell you, it's not like they'd much rather work with a player who has, this willingness to learn and to listen and take instruction than somebody who has all the skills in the world,
Yeah,
but they
absolutely.
won't listen,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just a much enjoyable experience, and it just overall makes the team more effective.
Yeah.
Elon Musk had a quote that I thought was really good, and it's really applicable to what we're talking about. But basically, he said, like, every person in your company is a vector, and your progress is the sum of all vectors. So basically, a vector is, there's a definition for that word, and a vector is something that has magnitude and direction. So like a force that's applied in a certain direction is a vector. So basically, if you can get everybody in your company to be, all these different vectors to be aligned in a specific direction, then you'll make progress, right? You'll be successful. So I thought that was just a really like deep quote when you actually consider like what a vector is and like what he's talking about. Like that's
of course he's talking about it in math terms, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing that we've talked about before that's challenge in our industry is team building, and we were talking about getting everyone on the same page. Well, we are not. Inherently, we're project based, and those projects have physical locations, so they're all over the place. So you have a team that's by nature all over the place. Tell me a little bit about team building and the challenges around building a team that's not together.
That's good.
It is tough. I have tried to do this every which way from Sunday for more than a decade, right? Yeah. And it is tough. And I think it's funny because it used to hurt my feelings early on, because I came from companies that wanted to be together or just were more social, or we were physically in the same place. Right. And that's a whole different ball game than this, right?
Right.
And I think too, the thing I've learned, one, the build industry has fantastic people. I love the culture of the build industry. I just think it's so down to earth, people that just truly appreciate, hard work, right? Yeah. And I think that's hard to find these days. So I really am drawn to the industry and have a love of the craft and all of that in the first place. But I think creating team, we provide moments each year in which we do invest heavily in our people. And in those moments, we have a handful of times a year where we try to get everybody in. I think such a big thing and something that I felt when I wasn't working was, it's not just a job. Like, the families at home, all their kids, like, you want everybody to know what you do and be proud of what you do. And so I think bringing in people's families and making them a part of things too is really important to having a great company culture. So we have those moments each year. I think that, one thing I implemented when I first came, which I do think has been really, really helpful, is this idea of the all hands meeting. We didn't have a collective moment when we were together in the company that I came into. We didn't have a whole lot of that kind of more corporate infrastructure at all. Yeah. So I wanted to bring pieces from my background, that would be purposeful and would really help us out while not making us too corporate. Yeah. So what was that sweet spot between the small mom and pop company, which I love, that And then, the good things, there's a reason why these companies scale. There's things they do well. So how can I bring some of that stuff into this environment and create kind of that beautiful mesh of those two worlds, you know? Awesome. So, and I was just saying today, I said, this is the perfect size company because it's not your corporate space where you're X's and O's and 1, 2, 3s, and you've got your little small vision of what you do, and you can't really speak into the way things are processed or done. And you've got bureaucracy and red tape every which way. That's one end of the extreme. And we're not this startup company that's like scrapping and trying to like figure out how we're going to pay next week's bills. And, but we have that sweet spot of where we're fully established, a 44-year company with a great brand and good people. And we can invest in ideas. And I can come to you guys, the younger generation, and say, hey, speak into this. Like we own this together. Right. So I think in terms of building camaraderie, I think facing the challenges that you have, which every business has challenges, but facing it together. And I think that's something I've been working on. Like when I have had strong opponents to ideas or progress, is how do I develop this person and get them to understand the value in progress? And then if they're still obstinate to it, if you can't beat them, join them. How do I get them involved in it? Because just throwing arrows over a wall, it's not helpful. Yeah, right. It's not helpful for your culture. It's not helpful for anything. So come join us and help us fix it. Yeah. So I think that's something when people collectively try and solve problems together, that creates a sense of ownership, and it creates a much better culture that is kind of aligned and together in this journey as a company together. So that's one thing. And then, communication, I've tried. I'm the communicator of the company. I don't think you've received, I think you got one email from David in 10 years, right? I am the communicator, the good news, the bad news, the everything. And sometimes I'm like, man, I wonder what they think of me right now. But I feel like I'm like the glue of that kind of stuff. So trying to engage people, we did just get MS Teams, and the earlier this year is, the reality is we're not physically together, and it's cost prohibitive to get everyone physically together on a regular basis, right? Because we got to shut our projects down, and it's so we do have to adopt a digital solution when we're so far apart. So
Teams can be a useful tool if you use it as such. I mean, sometimes, I'm sure
we'll get there.
I'm sure you have this feeling. It's like you just shoot stuff out into the ether. Nothing comes back.
I have had it for many years. Yeah. I'm like, well, part of me wants to be like, hey, if you respond in the next 5 minutes, $250 bonuses to anyone that responds. No, but I actually am looking at gamifying it. That's on my to-do list this year, is to gamify it. That's awesome.
So what are some of your strategies when it comes to like adding team members, right, and growing? What are some of your strategies there? I
have honed my skills over the years because I have made some wrong choices here and there, right? You learn from them, I think. So, I mean, in 11 years of hiring for Dalgleish and building the teams and all of that, I think I used to think maybe my engineering brain wanted to apply a formula to it, right? Like there's this type of person that will do well here. Yeah. And I think that I had to learn probably the hard way just from watching who thrives in this environment, what those critical things are. And it's not formulaic necessarily. I think, again, back to the curiosity, you have to have a passion for what we do. It is, and every time I interview, I say, what we do is frustrating. You got to be patient. You have to be understanding. You have to love what you do. You have to be okay with exhaustion because I mean, the bills, you guys out there, I can't say I sit at a desk. So I always just feel so like amazed by you guys of the, the 2 a.m. pours and just these long days and just the dynamics of having to constantly manage every little thing. And it is really, really difficult to build this level of home. I mean, it requires a lot of different skill sets and endurance. So I think when I look at people, when I interview them, I think obviously character first. I mean, I think we've learned through some hard experiences that, if someone doesn't have the core character that aligns to our company values, we don't want them in this company.
How do you really get to that, like in an interview?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, obviously the reference checks and things like that, but I mean, seeing how they respond to certain questions really in the way that they handle adversity. How do you communicate with clients, change orders, things like that. What was a time where you let the client down? How did you fix that? How did you respond to that? The subcontractors, I really look for having them talk about, the subcontractors, how they work with them, how they manage them, like how do they ensure quality standards are met and things like that, and just pick up on cues for the type of words they're using to describe these experiences. I think we do, to the extent that we can from an HR standpoint, want to understand personally, what kind of hobbies do you enjoy, and kind of just see where they go from there in terms of that type of stuff. But really, I mean, I have to interview in person. I feel like I am a student of this world, and this is scary or not, I study people like crazy. I do. I just am watching people. I'm seeing how they react to things.
I picked up on that. I always feel like you're studying.
Studying you.
Every question.
I've got.
Why is she writing down notes right now?
Well, I don't write any of it down. I just keep it up here.
It's always a test.
Yeah. No, but it's how I mean, I think it's something that I've been able to bring to this company is just that kind of EQ of like understanding the human dynamics, understanding, people who works well together, who maybe doesn't, has some growth areas, whether it be on the personal side or the communication side or the technical side. Like, how can we get people together where they can learn and grow together while also meeting the needs of the company and the client? And so, it's just I always joke that I play a game of Risk at work every day. It's like, I feel like I'm playing a strategy game when I'm moving every piece behind the scenes. It's funny because the clients never see me. For all these years, I rarely meet the clients.
That's
true.
I am just this like secret behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's so good. So, in construction, I think particularly in home building, but across the board, there's kind of this stereotype of who works in construction. Macho man, shows up with their truck, smoking a cig, kind of like this kind of cowboy mentality. And I mean, to some extent, it takes some chutzpah, to be in construction and say, I can take what's on this piece of paper and make it real out there. Yeah. So some of that is true, but I've found personally that some of that really is a misnomer. And I'm curious of your perspective on that. I mean, you've worked in this industry a long time. What's your experience?
It's interesting because I would say it takes on the vibe of the area. Like it's regional. I think when you're here in Austin, it's not as much what you're talking about. I think, there's much more of a metropolitan feel to it. There's, and in terms of skill set too, I would say, and I think I shared this with you last year, it's like, again, there's no type. You don't have to be that type of superintendent that's, tearing into the subs and shaming them. And we don't want any of our people to be that way, right? I think that was maybe more of an old school mentality on how the GC subcontractor relationship was, but that's not what's ever worked for our company. And I think it's part of why we've grown to the way that we have is that, I've talked to subcontractors before and they said, man, we love working for Dalgleish because they treat us with respect, like we're part of the team. And it's that whole thing, again, the culture of the company is we're collectively doing this together. And there's not, that type of mentality, I think.
When they win, we
win together.
Their high quality work equals our high quality
work.
Well,
we were talking yesterday. We had a strategy meeting yesterday and we just said your job as a project manager is to make your subcontractors successful.
Yep.
Right. So are you ready for the work? That they, when they show up, when you call them, you're ready? Are you setting expectations with clear scope? Do they know what the quality standards are without having them to rip everything out 3 or 4 times? I mean, So, I mean, these types of things, but we've gotten off topic, but I would say, no, it's not necessarily this fully masculine vibe at all. I think more in your rural areas, it does tend to be more that same dynamic, more like that. But I mean, there's something wonderful about that too, but I don't know. And it's certainly not that type that's necessarily successful. I think in our subset of home building. I think the hard part, and I know y'all have heard me say this before, is like we're blending the blue collar and white collar world. Mm-hmm. So what we're asking of our people is like, we want you to have your overalls on and have this. I termed this when we were doing our values and stuff as approachable excellence. Mm. Like there's a world where we can be all of that, where we can love and honor the craft and, you know, talk in the way that we need to set expectations in the subs and all the details and construction details and still talk to, you know, the person running the, you know, best company in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you bridge those communication styles and have that ability to flex? But it's the same thing as what makes somebody a good manager, right? Yeah. Again, there's no formula to it. If you understand the people working for you, you might change your style to meet what their needs are. It's just that EQ, IQ kind of blend, I think.
100%. So that's really well said.
Yeah. And, you know, I wanted to ask, when I hear something like the construction industry, I mean, it's a fact. It's a male-dominated industry, and I hear this a lot as if it's something that needs to be remedied, like it's a problem that needs to be fixed. That the industry there's more men who want to go in construction than there are women, and that's somehow a problem. And I'm not really getting that vibe from you. I'm kind of getting this sense that, hey, it's really open to anybody as long as you're, you know, willing to do the work and your work is acceptable and it's good quality. Hey, welcome aboard. Like, I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking? I mean,
I do. You know, I mean, I think I've always been drawn to more male-dominated industries. I don't know if it's because I have 3 brothers and 3 sons, and my fiance, which I'm getting used to saying, has 3 sons too. So just boys everywhere. I just know boys. I always joke I'm surprised I can't even talk to a woman. But no, seriously, so I think, you know, for me, I always think it's equal opportunity.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like nothing is saying that you can't be a woman and join a construction industry. I think, you know, there's inherent reasons why men are drawn to more physical tasks than women are that are just at the nature of who we are. But I mean, I think, you know, you could stereotype and say that there are certain skills. We have women in our company that are successful. I mean, more than 99% of our field has all been men in all the years I've been here. And it's not because I wouldn't want to hire women, not at all. Right. Quite the opposite. Yeah. It's just, that's not who's drawn to it. Right. So, but no, I mean, again, it's hard work.
Yeah.
You do have to have thick skin. Yeah. There are days that I was like, really? You know, really? Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. And I do not get offended at all. But I'm like, wow, okay. I'll write a book someday. But, you know, it's easy. No, but I mean, it's just every industry has its feel. But I love this industry. Is it hard? Yes, it is. But it's also a beautiful thing. I mean, I think to be a part of creating things, I think that's why I'm drawn to this. I love beautiful things. I love engineering, and we get to do both. And I love people. So it's like, this is like, to me, the perfect space to be in. So,
Well, that kind of leads into the next topic, which is like how the industry's changed over the years, like how the labor market has changed. So like, as you've been involved with hiring over the past decade, you know, how have the people coming in, you know, the applicants or people that we're reaching out to, is there a shift in, you know, demographics? Is there a shift in, you know, overall mindset or age maybe? Like, how has this labor pool changed over this last decade?
You know, I think this is kind of 2-part for us. You know, our company is so different than what it was like 10 years ago. So I think, you know, culturally, you know, what we were looking for 10 years ago is very different than what we're looking for today. Both good in different ways. But I think the company I walked into was much more your kind of stereotypical build company. I think was less about the human element, hiring good builders, but we didn't talk about culture. There was nothing about the client experience. Like, these were not terms that our company knew about. So we've had to kind of grow and mature over the last 10 years as Austin has grown and matured. So we've been doing this major transformation as well. So I would say, back then it was more your kind of stereotypical builder. They were very resistant to any type of HR process,
sure, yeah.
Any type of growth, any type of even saying like what our levels were kind of thing. And, looking at this generation that's changed so much, and that's conversations we were having yesterday, is like, it's just a totally different generation of people. The things they desire, the sense of purpose every day. So how do you create that ownership and sense of purpose from work to the extent you can? Obviously it's not going to be a fully fulfilled sense of purpose, but work is big. We spend a lot of time here. So,
it is.
And then how do you create a culture where they feel valued, where they feel part of something, where they understand, clarity is kindness, levels, growth. I think, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're going, how am I going to raise my family? And is there opportunity? And, so these are things that I've hoped that one day we would get there and have a desire to do it. And I wouldn't have to battle the culture, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're there. So I'm pretty excited about that, because I feel like that's going to be a beautiful thing for us, and something we're working hard on, is just to get to that clarity of process and clarity of levels, and just give people kind of this wonderful experience to continue to grow and build the best stuff.
Well, that's
good.
Definitely a lasting legacy of yours, specifically here, from the standpoint of really building the culture into something that's special from that standpoint.
I hope I can do it.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
You touched on something there that I think is worth diving into a little bit more too, of, okay, you're looking at people who are in their 20s and 30s, younger builders wanting to come up in the industry. What's your message from them? I mean, you've seen, a career of builders come through, and operate in a high performing environment, building incredible, high end custom homes.
Yeah.
For people who want to do that, what would you tell them with your perspective?
I think it's a good goal. I mean, I think if you are in an industry, the desire to get to build the best and with the best is something you would strive for. I think that the hard part is, coming out of college or coming out of the trades, and wanting to move into these management type roles. It is really important that you build your foundational skills first. And it's something that I think I've learned the hard way here, because we really wanted to have and be able to use our size to raise up that next generation. And I think, again, what I've learned is that this is not the proper place to come straight out of school. Because our builds are, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you don't get staffed on a ground up build, you may not do a foundation for 6 years. So you're not going to get, and we can't get that. I cannot get these young builders out of school or just starting out the ground skills that they need to be a good builder. So my advice always for younger people, I always use David Wakely as an example, just because I know that they have a really good training program, but go into volume building first. Go learn your sequencing, go build 30 houses, do it to the best of the standards that they'll allow, because you're going to have total budgets, and it's a very different type of build. You're really, your scheduling work. The subcontractor's already selected. All the selections are done. Everything's handed to you, right? Purchasing is ordering the stuff. It's a totally different environment than ours, but just go learn your sequencing and then come to a place like this, because we just cannot give those foundational skills here. But if you have the desire, and don't learn bad habits. Learn bad habits. Still have that desire to do the best work you can within the constraints that you have. And then if and when you decide to go to, a place like Dalgleish Construction that has, the budgets and the desire and the expectation of a high level of quality, to the extent, and the artistic builds, then you can blossom in that way. But again, it's a whole new level of skill coming to a Dalgleish because it's the choreography of all of it at that point. And so much lies in the field at that point. So the job is much bigger once you come to custom residential. But yeah.
Man.
That's really great perspective.
Absolutely. Gosh, Sarah, you've really just unloaded a ton of wisdom, and we've really covered a lot of ground in this discussion. So I appreciate your time. I'm really glad you decided to come on and talk to us. But yeah, I mean, if you're a builder, if you're just starting out, listen to this episode, because this is all about how to grow, how to develop your team and your skills. So, I mean, Sara, again, thank you so much for coming on and giving us all your knowledge and wisdom and that you've learned over your career. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.